All right, hey guys, this is going to be kind of a part 2 here for this hole. Since we're in tour 10 now for this 7th hole here, I want to cover just one other shot, and there's really only one type that we can do, so we're going to go Thor 6 or 7. Additionally, we could get away with a rocket 10. However, why would you be using Rocket 10 in Tour 10? You wouldn't. So you can pretty much just disregard that as a shot potential, as it shouldn't be in here whatsoever. So let's talk a little bit about the actual shot. So one of the things that you can do is you can land right off this zone right in here. I like to pick this side of the hill. You can move it up to the top half, especially as the wind gets more of a headwind. You might actually want that, but for most circumstances, you're probably going to want to land on this side. There's kind of a ridge towards the middle, so I like to try to stay on the upslope instead of the down slope of that ridge. And what the typical shot is just kind of bounces here, and kind of just slowly rolls out. This is going to be a high probability type shot. You can get away with, in certain winds, we can get away with this with with an Apocalypse 6. So let me throw this in here, just above here, Apoc 6 or 7, as we can kind of do this similarly. It's just going to be a little bit more conditional with that shot. So let's take a look here at our wind map. By no means do you want to necessarily, bring that intentionally and want to play that shot. However, for the certain winds, you'll be able to do this. And for the Thor 6 shot, we'll just, pretty much for the most part, stick with relatively max or very, very close to max. So I'm going to go about 8.5 here. And for the tailwind situation, that's going to kind of leave me potential to go to max. And then we can do 9, in those angled tailwinds. And then, down here, 7.75, 7.5, 7.75. It's going to be very manageable that we can get this very close to this hole using this technique. Alternatively, you can see these winds that I'm putting right here. We can kind of cheat the front half of this fairway a little bit, change our land zone to, towards the front a little bit. And we can, Apocalypse has like 65. So in these headwind situations, we can play the very front of that fairway and just kind of cheat it. To kind of stop with a Apoc 6 or a Apoc 7. So you'll just have to play the front of the fairway. And, typically what I'll use is very close to min for this adjustment. So if we're talking side wind, it's going to be pretty much min, pretty much spot up, plus wind effect, of course. So you'll have to offset the guide or you have to play some curl. Because naturally, you're not going to probably be able to get it over enough. So if you have a left to right wind, you're going to need some kind of curl to be able to still apply that backspin and get it over left enough. So, you might have to curl it sometimes. So if this was my thing, I might have to do this much curl on this type of wind, for example. And the stronger it gets, you might have to even shift it over to the halfway point. However, very small wind or other, I might not need to use any, and I could just kind of, rely on my backspin. So it's just going to kind of be dependent, and you'll kind of want to stick to this model here with how you want to do it. And as I mentioned, you can do similarly with the Apoc, but it's going to be more conditional. So for the, Apoc situation, you're going to kind of be limited to this half of the play, and you'll have to kind of cheat the front of that fairway just a little bit more. The tailwind situation is going to be pretty much a nightmare. It still might not be a terrible shot. You might want to just play your opponent. Because, for instance, if they have to do this rough bump, or if they try this fairway skip shot, and they go before you, and they're off the green, you can just go ahead and roll with this. You should be able to get the backspin shot, somewhere up here, even on a tailwind. It just won't be, by the hole. So just something to be thinking about. But you should be able to hold the green in most situations. And as I was mentioning, with the tailwind here, it's going to be very close to min as well. It's actually very, very tough to actually hit this. You might even need to short hit it. It's going to be very, 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 very tricky to do in a tailwind. And that's one of the reasons, that you kind of want to definitely increase your land zone towards the front and just go max with the spin to kind of change the shot a little bit. But additionally to that, you'll have the headwind, and you can play much more towards maybe like mid-club in this situation. Probably not towards max. There's probably no situation where you'll need to go full max, but very, very close to max, depending on how big. If you got a 10 in the face, which technically could happen in this tour, then you could probably just go ahead and go max. So, but it would be, mid to max, somewhere in there for that wind play. So, hopefully this alternate approach does help for this later tour. I left this off the other video because it was just a little bit too early, and guys shouldn't have really had that shot in the other video. So good luck with this one. See you guys on the next hole.